Alright, good morning. Today I'm going to share with you my first impressions on the image quality of the new Osmo Action 6 after using it for about 1 week. So first of all, I definitely notice that this camera has slightly more detail to the image than the Action 5 Pro. The Action 5 Pro always looked a bit soft and mushy to me, even after all the firmware updates DJI has released, and this one is definitely much more detailed. And I'm not talking about digital sharpness, I'm talking about actual detail that you get from the sensor. And I think because this camera has a brand new sensor, that's why it is significantly different when it comes to the overall detail of the image. Next, I think the colors on this camera are slightly better, especially skin tones, because on the Pocket 3, for example, and the Action 5 Pro, skin always looked a bit magenta and red, and with this camera, from what I could see at least, they look a bit more neutral, if you will, which makes it a bit easier to color grade in post-production. Also, not scientific, I think the dynamic range is slightly wider on this new camera than the Action 5 Pro, because I pretty much backlit all the shots you saw in the beginning of this video, and I was able to squeeze so much from it, but I might be mistaken. Maybe it's the same dynamic range performance as the Action 5 Pro, but from what I could see, at least this camera has a pretty wide dynamic range performance. Also, I am definitely a big fan of the variable aperture because one, if you stop to f4, you can get beautiful looking sun stars as you saw throughout this video. And I like that because it makes this camera look much more like a traditional mirrorless camera, if you will. But also, if you want to control the exposure a bit better, you can switch to f2.6 for low light conditions or f4 for like daylight conditions, or if you want to control the minimum focus distance at f2.6, it's 40 centimeters, which is pretty far when vlogging, for example. But if you stop down to like f4, you can get a minimum focus distance of 20 centimeters, which is more than enough in my opinion for like handheld vlogging, if you will. And finally, I do want to mention low light performance. I think it performs pretty much the same as the Action 5 Pro. I could not notice any significant difference, but at the same time, I haven't done really, side-by-side tests with the Action 5 Pro, but when pushing this camera to like ISO 6400 or 12800, there is a lot of grain, a lot of noise, and also some color artifacts at the same time. So it looks more or less the same to me as the Action 5 Pro. And also the camera froze on me a couple of times during the last week. It was kind of weird because I usually never have any issues with DJI cameras, but with this one, it froze on me a couple of times during, not during recording, but during like changing the settings and whatnot, and it was pretty annoying. So I think DJI has to release a couple more firmware updates for it to be, polished, if you will. But other than that, I have no major complaints about this camera, and I can't really say for certain yet if it's worth upgrading to, if you will, from the Action 5 Pro. It is definitely more detailed. If you want something sharper and more detailed, it's definitely worth it, but I don't know if it's like better in everything pretty much. So yeah, that's basically what I think about it after using it for about 1 week. It's more detailed, the colors are slightly better, the variable aperture is nice, dynamic range performance is impressive, low light performance is the software is a bit glitchy at the moment, the battery life is pretty much the same as on the Action 5 Pro, and yeah, I have nothing else to talk about. Let me know down below if you have any questions, recommendations, and whatever. And yeah, I'm also going to leave the settings I used for the shots in the beginning of this video, so you can maybe replicate the same results with your Action 6. Thanks for watching.